As if hologram bosses didn't have you dripping already from the difficulty. Well, now Yinlin will have you dripping even more, for completely different reasons. Yinlin has arrived and is everything you could ask for from a character. Great damage dealing capabilities, amazing flexibility, god tier animations, and has insane longevity. I'm going to run through Yinlin's kit, the optimal way to play her best builds, teams you can place her in, and the overall value she brings to your account. Before we jump right into it, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Okay, Yinlin is an insane hybrid character, being able to dominate as a main DPS and sub DPS character. Diving into her kit, she has a very flashy 4-string basic attack that is able to apply Sinner's Mark on the enemies you hit. Sinner's Mark can also be inflicted on enemies through the Resonance Liberation and intro skill. There are two different marks Yinlin will be able to inflict on enemies, the Sinner's Mark and the Punishment Mark. The Sinner's Mark will disappear from enemies when you switch Yinlin out, but the Punishment Mark will remain even when you switch her out. And I'll explain how you inflict the Punishment Mark in just a second. The Resonance skill is a two-part skill, with the first activation dealing damage to enemies and allowing Yinlin to enter the execution mode. Whilst in the execution mode, each enemy with the Sinner's Mark will receive up to 4 additional electro attacks when attacked by Yinlin. Then the Resonance skill's second activation is a small AoE burst of damage dealt to enemies. So the opening rotation would be to inflict enemies with the Sinner's Mark through basic attacks, then activate the skill once allowing Yinlin to enter the execution mode, then use basic attacks 4 times and then skill again to finish. Now, due to how slow the final hit from the basic attack string is, as well as the second activation from the Resonance skill, there can be some animation cancels thrown in to be optimal. So after enemies have the Sinner's Mark, you could pop the skill once, then basic attack 3 times, and then once Yinlin is launching the second skill, quick swap to the sub DPS or main DPS to take over. The Resonance Liberation, as I mentioned, will be able to inflict Sinner's Mark as well, and will deal massive damage dealt to enemies through 7 Thunder Blast. So in terms of including the Liberation within the rotation, you will always want to open up with the Resonance skill when enemies have been inflicted with the Sinner's Mark, then use the Liberation and then basic attacks and finish with the skill. Now the Forte circuit is where Yinlin can be utilized as a sub DPS and where the Punishment Mark comes into play. When the Forte gauge is completely filled, Yinlin will cast a massive, and I mean massive, AoE attack that will convert every enemy hit with the Sinner's Mark inflicted to instead be inflicted with the Punishment Mark. The Punishment Mark will remain on enemies for 18 seconds and will take additional electro damage every second when hit. As mentioned earlier, the Punishment Mark will remain even when Yinlin switches out. So during those 18 seconds, you can rely on your main DPS to deal damage or quick swap between Yinlin and the secondary DPS with the mark still remaining. So this Punishment Mark alone can allow for Yinlin to play as a sub DPS for pretty much any main DPS really, which is just amazing. Yinlin also carries a few powerful passives within her kit. Pain Immersion will boost Yinlin's crit rate by 15% for 5 seconds after using Magnetic Roar, which is the first activation of the Resonance skill. Deadly Focus will increase the damage dealt from Lightning Execution, which is the second activation from the Resonance skill, by 10% when hitting enemies with the Sinner's Mark, and will also increase Yinlin's attack by 10% for 4 seconds. Yinlin's intro skill is a small burst of damage when entering the field and will also apply Sinner's Mark to the enemy. The animation for the intro skill also has me in a chokehold. Finishing off with Yinlin's godlike outro skill that provides to the character switching in a 20% electro damage deepen and a 25% Resonance Liberation damage deepen for 14 seconds. This outro skill paired with the Punishment Mark would make Yinlin an insanely valuable sub DPS character. Although the outro skill does benefit electro DPS characters the most, if you wanted to run a non-electro DPS character along with Yinlin, it would be perfectly fine since they would still benefit from the Resonance Liberation damage deepen. Now when it comes to Yinlin's Forte Priority, the Forte circuit will definitely be first, as it would be where majority of Yinlin's damage derives from, being the massive AoE attack once the Forte gauge has been filled and the additional electro damage enemies would take from the Punishment Mark. The Resonance skill would follow after since it sees more use than the Liberation, having 2 casts and allowing Yinlin to pop off in the execution mode. The Resonance skill and Resonance Liberation play a big role in Yinlin's damage dealing capability, so the Liberation would follow on from the Resonance skill. Then you would have the basic attacks, and last would be the intro skill. These two play smaller roles in Yinlin's damage but will still contribute, so you would want to invest in upgrading everything in that order. Now the teams you can run with Yinlin. Yinlin's best team for sure would be beside Calcharo as the main DPS and Verina being the support. Calcharo is an electro main DPS god and wants to take up as much field time as he can get. and Yinlin will be able to provide him just that, along with buffing his damage massively. During Calcharo's heavy attack animations Mercy and Death Messenger, you would be able to quick swap Yinlin in during those animations since they are on the slower side. Yinlin switching in to deal her intro skill or pop her liberation will be a massive amount of damage dealt to enemies paired with Calcharo's heavy attacks. Then you would switch Calcharo back in once his heavy attack animations are finished to continue dealing damage with him. Yinlin inflicting enemies with punishment marks will also be amazing since then for those 18 seconds, Calcharo can dominate the field whilst dealing additional electro damage from Yinlin. Then the outro skill immensely benefits Calcharo since he receives a 20% electro damage deepen and a 25% resonance liberation damage deepen for 14 seconds. However, the small weakness to this outro skill is that once you swap Calcharo out, the outro skill buffs are removed. So it would be important to avoid quick swapping for those 14 seconds to maximize the effect from the outro skill. The best case scenario would be to inflict enemies with the punishment mark from Yinlin's Forte circuit and then switch out to Calcharo, providing him with the outro skill buffs to allow him to deal a lot more damage as well as additional electro attacks through Yinlin. Jianxin is an amazing partner for Calcharo due to her outro skill providing a 38% resonance liberation damage deepen. This allows Calcharo's initial explosion of liberation damage to deal even more damage and for the heavy attack Death Messenger, which hits insanely hard already, to deal even more damage. So Yinlin being able to provide the same buff but with a lower multiplier as she also provides an electro damage buff will majorly increase Calcharo's damage. Then with Verina being the best support in the game, providing a ton of heals, a 20% attack buff and 15% damage deepen just through her outro skill, which is amazing for both Calcharo and Yinlin, as they both are amazing damage dealers and will be able to fully utilize the buffs provided from Verina. Also, the ability to cheat death is always nice. Instead of Calcharo, you can run Havoc Rover as the main DPS beside Yinlin and Verina. Havoc Rover is a great option due to their very high damage dealing capabilities and being similar to Calcharo, wanting as much field time as they can get. In order for Havoc Rover to deal the explosive damage, they would need to enter their Dark Surge state, which is achieved through completely filling their Forte gauge. Rover would be able to fill the gauge through their basic attacks, their resonant skill and intro skill. Now considering Yinlin's cooldowns for her abilities are on the longer side, you would ideally quick swap her in to deal damage when her abilities are fully charged, and once you are waiting for her cooldown to reset, you can have Rover charge their Forte gauge through basic attacks. Once Rover has filled their Forte gauge completely, you can inflict the punishment mark on enemies from Yinlin and provide the outro skill buff to Rover to increase their resonance liberation damage. Then when you enter the Dark Surge state and pop Rover's ultimate, you deal nuclear damage. As I mentioned earlier, the increase in liberation damage deepen from Yinlin would still be valuable enough for any DPS that can utilize it, regardless of the electro damage buff being utilized. So it would work perfectly with Rover since their liberation is the hardest hitting ability from their kit. So any liberation buffs would be extremely valuable for Rover. Also, since the Dark Surge state lasts for 10 seconds, the punishment mark inflicted on enemies would synergize well, as Rover will remain on the field to deal their enhanced basic attacks. Another variation would be Yinlin as the main DPS, Encore as the sub DPS, and either Verina or Jianxin as the support. Encore is a burst damage dealer and wouldn't need to take up much field time in dealing great damage to enemies. So Encore would synergize well with Yinlin, as Encore can quick swap in during Yinlin's long ability cooldown to deal damage through her resonance skill and resonance liberation. Then you would switch back to Yinlin once you can go through her rotations again. Verina would be the best support, but you can also use Jianxin too, since the resonance liberation damage bonus would greatly benefit both Yinlin and Encore. Also, Jianxin provides a ton of utility like shielding, grouping and healing, which would be beneficial in any situation. These teams would work best with Yinlin, but as I've said, Yinlin is extremely flexible, so these aren't the only teams that Yinlin can be used in. If you want to run Yinlin with Jiyan for example, the punishment mark inflicted on enemies would allow Jiyan to deal additional electro damage. So that would be the bare minimum Yinlin can provide to any DPS character. Now I am not recommending to use Yinlin and Jiyan together, as Jiyan would have much better sub DPS options and he doesn't benefit from Yinlin's outro skill at all. But if you really wanted to use them together, the punishment mark will bring enough support to even run Yinlin with Jiyan. When it comes to Yinlin's best echo set, the Void Thunder set is definitely the best set to build for Yinlin. It provides a 10% electro damage bonus, as well as upon using the heavy attack or resonant skill, will increase electro damage by an additional 15% with 2 max stacks. Increased electro damage would greatly benefit Yinlin as a main DPS and as a sub DPS. as Yinlin's abilities will deal more damage and the additional electro attacks dealt through the punishment mark will deal even more damage. The best main echo to run would be the Tempest Mephis, as it provides a 12% electro damage bonus and a 12% heavy attack damage bonus. The buffs in comparison to the Thundering Mephis would be less valuable, as the Thundering Mephis can provide a 12% electro damage bonus and a 12% resonance liberation damage bonus. However, the animation for the Thundering Mephis is a lot longer than the Tempest Mephis, so if you are racing against time, which is usually the case in endgame modes, the Tempest Mephis overall would be better. You can also use both the Void Thunder and Lingering Tune set together, as then you would gain a 10% electro damage bonus and a 10% attack bonus. It would be less optimal for Yinlin, but if you are lacking the echoes to provide a full Void Thunder set to Yinlin, then both Void Thunder and Lingering Tunes would be viable for sure. Another echo set you could run on Yinlin would be the Moonlit Cloud set. Again, it would be a much less optimal set in comparison to the Void Thunder set, but you are able to provide your main DPS with some massive buffs. You gain a 10% energy regen increase, and upon using the outro skill, the attack of the next resonator will increase by 22.5% for 15 seconds. If you also pair this up with the Impermanence Heron, you can provide an additional 12% damage increase for the next resonator when switching out. So as you can see, you would stack up your main DPS with quite a few buffs, allowing them to hit a ton harder. So you could run this set if you wanted to see your main DPS deal a ton more damage. However, the Void Thunder set overall would definitely be the best echo set to go with for Yinlin. Now for the weapons you can run on Yinlin. Her exclusive weapon without a doubt will be her best weapon choice by far. The main stat provides a massive 36% crit rate boost, which would make it much easier to obtain that perfect crit rate to crit damage ratio. The passive provides a 12% damage bonus increase as standard, so this would increase the damage dealt from everything in Yinlin's kit. Also, when dealing resonant skill damage, increases attack by 12%, stacking up to 2 times. Yinlin has a 2-part resonant skill, so you would gain a 24% attack bonus after the second activation from the skill. Lastly, when the resonator is not on the field, increases their attack by an additional 12%. So this would mean the additional electro attacks dealt from Yinlin's punishment mark will deal even more damage when you switch her out. So this weapon would be very strong for Yinlin playing as a main DPS and sub DPS. If you aren't looking to pick up Yinlin's weapon, there are alternatives. Cosmic Ripples being the next best choice and the only other 5-star rectifier. The main stat provides a huge 54% attack boost, which would be great for Yinlin overall. It also provides a 12.8% energy regen increase, allowing for quicker ult activations, and can increase basic attack damage bonus up to 16% through using basic attacks. So this would benefit Yinlin with her rotations between the basic attacks and resonant skill, allowing for more damage to be dealt from her basic attacks. Augment is the only other rectifier apart from Yinlin's exclusive weapon, providing crit as the main stat and would be the next best option after Cosmic Ripples. A 20.8% crit rate boost from the main stat along with a 48% attack boost after using the Resonance Liberation for 15 seconds is massive. This would definitely be Yinlin's best 4-star option. However, it is a battle pass weapon, so there is a paywall for it. Jinjo Keeper would be your next best option, providing a 36.4% increase in attack as the main stat, and when the intro skill is released, an additional 8% increase in attack and 10% increase in HP for 15 seconds. This weapon is also free through the 4-star weapon selector we were given as a pre-register reward, so you could pick this up if you haven't used it just yet. It is also featured on Yinlin's weapon banner, so there is a chance of picking it up from there. There isn't many outstanding weapon options really, which is fair since the game is still pretty new. So just try to aim for one of these weapons for now, but if you can't pick any of them up, don't stress since I'm sure more options will release later on. Overall, Yinlin is just a gem of a character, being able to inflict tons of damage on field and off field, able to play as a sub DPS for pretty much any main DPS character, but of course, will be a lot more valuable for electro main DPS characters such as Calcharo, animations that make stuff hard, and will be a playable character for a long time regardless of power creep. The ability to support off-field will massively contribute to Yinlin's longevity, making her insanely valuable for anyone's account, especially since she can buff any electro main DPS moving forward with her outro skill. I'm sure a lot of you were planning to pick up Yinlin regardless of her kit due to obvious reasons, including myself, but it's great to see that she has a top tier kit to back up her amazing personality. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like. Also drop a comment if you have picked up Yinlin and let me know your experiences with her so far in the game. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.